Before Peter O'Toole ever donned the white robes of T. Lawrence, he had no idea he was about to endure one of the most grueling, dangerous, and chaotic film shoots in Hollywood history. Lawrence of Arabia wasn't just a movie. It was a survival test disguised as an epic, stretching across continents, careers, and the very limits of endurance. O'Toole, relatively unknown at the time, was thrust into stardom after Marlon Brando and Albert Finney turned down the role. Brando because he didn't want to spend 2 years in the desert, and Finney because he refused to take a screen test. Director David Lean, a man notorious for his obsessive precision and temper, took a gamble on the tall, blue-eyed Irishman with a theater background. It would define both of their careers, and nearly destroy O'Toole's body and sanity in the process. Alec Guinness once said, Lean was not so much a director as a general commanding an army of filmmakers. And in this war, O'Toole was his lead infantryman, taking all the hits. Lawrence of Arabia follows the enigmatic British officer T.E. Lawrence, charting his transformation from eccentric military mapmaker to the mythical leader of the Arab revolt against the Ottoman Empire during World War I. The story is equal parts political intrigue, personal myth, and colonial chaos, sprawling across a nearly 4-hour runtime that manages to stay utterly captivating. O'Toole's portrayal is arresting, mysterious, charismatic, and fragile, a man both enchanted and broken by the desert he tried to conquer. The character is as much a construct as the man himself, and the film invites us to question how history shapes heroes, or how heroes shape history. Filmed largely in the punishing deserts of Jordan, Morocco, and Spain, the shoot was an exercise in madness. Temperatures regularly soared above 120 degrees Fahrenheit, with cast and crew suffering from heat exhaustion, sunstroke, and dehydration. Sandstorms would erase entire sets, delay production, and sometimes wipe out equipment. The camera crew often wrapped their gear in plastic and canvas just to protect it from the relentless elements. One iconic sequence, the shimmering mirage that introduces Omar Sharif's character, Sheriff Ali, required over a week of filming just to get the shadows right. Lean wanted perfection, and perfection took time. A lot of time. And when the actors weren't dodging the sun, they were dodging injury. O'Toole was thrown from a camel, bitten by a camel, nearly blinded by sand, and burned in a scene involving explosives that went off too early. In one surreal moment, he was saved from a potentially fatal fall only because he had accidentally put on a camel saddle backward, an error that wedged him in place. Lean quipped, "Peter may survive this film, but he will never be the same." And he wasn't. O'Toole reportedly lost over 30 pounds during filming and developed chronic knee issues from all the camel riding. At night, he'd often drink to dull the pain, leading to a reputation as a hard-living actor. Yet through it all, he delivered a performance of stunning depth and control. He wasn't the only one suffering. Anthony Quinn, Alec Guinness, and Jack Hawkins all clashed with Lean's demanding style. Guinness, cast controversially as Prince Faisal, was uncomfortable in the heavy makeup and false nose required to play an Arab leader. Quinn bristled at Lean's endless takes and lack of direction. Omar Sharif, initially cast in a minor role, had to dye his hair, wear brown contact lenses, and adopt an accent to satisfy Lean's vision of an exotic yet relatable Arab hero. When a larger part opened up, Sharif jumped at the chance, and it paid off. His chemistry with O'Toole gave the film its emotional spine. The film ballooned in scope and budget, with Lean famously halting production for weeks just to wait for the desert foliage to die back and match earlier footage. At one point, local authorities in Jordan banned filming when a crew member insulted a Bedouin chief. The British embassy had to intervene. The desert wasn't just a backdrop. It was an adversary. Despite the pain, what ended up on screen was pure cinematic legend. Freddie Young's cinematography, especially that famous cut from a match being blown out to the blazing desert sunrise, is now film school gospel. Lean insisted on shooting in 70mm Super Panavision, allowing vast desert vistas to swallow characters whole and underscore their insignificance. Maurice Jarre's sweeping score, recorded with the London Philharmonic Orchestra, gave the dunes a heartbeat, evoking both majesty and melancholy. Lean's use of wide-angle lenses, practical lighting, and in-camera effects turned the desert into a living, breathing character. Behind the scenes, the production was a powder keg. O'Toole was drinking heavily, Sharif was battling dehydration, and David Lean was pushing everyone to the brink. Assistant directors rotated constantly, quitting due to exhaustion or clashing with Lean. Crew members slept in tents, endured sand in every orifice, and often went days without proper rest. When asked why he stayed on the project, one technician simply said, "Because I didn't want to be the one who gave up." Censorship and controversy also loomed over the film. Several countries in the Middle East banned it upon release, accusing it of distorting Arab history and promoting colonialist ideology. Ironically, much of the dialogue that critics found offensive was lifted directly from T.E. Lawrence's own writings in his autobiographical epic, 7 Pillars of Wisdom. The film also downplayed certain aspects of Lawrence's identity, especially his sexuality, which has remained a point of debate and critique among historians and audiences. Peter O'Toole never won an Oscar for the role, though he was nominated, but he often joked that he deserved hazard pay. His portrayal is still considered one of the greatest performances ever captured on film, and perhaps that's because it wasn't entirely performance. He really was living through hell. The experience changed him forever. In later interviews, he said he couldn't even watch the film without remembering the pain it took to make it. The pain was worth it. Today, Lawrence of Arabia remains a touchstone in filmmaking. In 1999, the American Society of Cinematographers voted it the best shot film of the 20th century. It has been preserved in the U.S. National Film Registry, restored in 4K resolution, and celebrated in retrospectives around the world. Younger audiences continue to discover it, often stunned that a film so old can still feel so modern. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite moment in Lawrence of Arabia, and do you think Peter O'Toole gave the greatest performance of the 60s? Drop your thoughts below.